What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got some updates for you, some important stuff to talk about, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. The first thing, something that came out yesterday that I didn't get to, is later on. The Dolphins have announced that they have activated cornerback Xavier Howard off of the reserve COVID-19 and active physically unable to perform lists. So he was taken off both the COVID and the PUP list, which is good. Let's see. And then also they signed defensive end Avery Moss, who we've had on the team before, and waived cornerback Picasso Nelson Jr. and center Donnell Stanley. I didn't even know who those guys were. Maybe you guys did. I don't know. But they are now gone, and Avery Moss is now in. Like I said, we have had him. We have had him on the team before, and we do need help at the defensive end position, so that's solid. And he has done some solid things. He was never, like, huge. He was never, like, a superstar or anything like that, but he was a solid player, so I like the Avery Moss signing. And obviously it's good that Xavier Howard's off the list. So, real quick, too, I also want to talk about... this whole situation, because we're gonna talk about it a little bit more in depth in a minute, especially with some reports talking about some players that are potentially gonna sit out games to get change, social justice change, right? And so there was a lot of protests across many sports leagues, as we've been talking about, and several teams from the NFL yesterday decided to cancel practice. There were 8 teams in total, if I remember correctly, that decided to cancel practice yesterday in solidarity. The Dolphins were not one of those teams. To be fair, though, they did not have practice yesterday anyway, so there was nothing really for them to cancel. But they haven't, all they did, apparently, there's reports that they talked about it. And I'm not going to stay on this one particular point that I'm going to make right now, but apparently they did have, a couple discussions about this. And, Brian Flores said something along the lines of, well, I've lived this, and, like, I've had guns pointed at me and stuff. And I don't doubt that at all. He's a black man in the country, in one of, like, the most racist countries that ever existed. So it's not at all surprising if Brian Flores, ever encountered, inappropriate behavior from the police, etc., etc. However, now there are probably going to be plenty of people that dislike this part of my opinion, but I frankly don't give a fuck about anything he has to say on the matter when his actions have proven that he's a sellout. So, the biggest example, well, really it's the one example that we have, right, where Brian Flores was a person in power, in a position of power, to make a decision that was absolutely race motivated and involved, right? And that was the Kenny Stills situation. Anybody who thinks that it didn't have anything to do with race simply because it was a black coach and a black GM that ultimately decided to trade the black player for being outspoken against the white male billionaire owner who decided to support and fundraise for the racist fascist president that we have, no, that's ridiculous. It doesn't matter that Brian Flores himself is black. It's the fact that he decided to side with the white male racist billionaire owner over the black player who he's supposed to have responsibility over and supposed to take care of. And it's not like his production was bad. It's not like he was really all that expensive. There was literally no reason for it other than the confrontation and the tension that had built between the two of them, because Kenny Stills decided he wanted to, look, I'm not going to go through it. His comments were mundane, but he's an activist and he spoke up. and then he got retaliated against. Anybody who says otherwise is either absolutely in denial or also racist. So I really don't give a fuck about what any of those people have to say. It's a fact. He's a sellout, and that's just how it is. So I really don't give two fucks. Now, that's not to say that in the future, if he were ever to be, assaulted or anything, or harassed by the cops, I'm not saying that would be okay. Of course it would not be okay. In that instance, in that context, his decisions would be irrelevant because he would, in that instance, in that situation, be the victim of police brutality, etc. If something like that were to happen, right? So it depends on the situation and the context. Right now, while he's all fucking comfortable, living his fucking lavish life, he's got a fucking nice house, blah, blah, blah. He makes plenty of fucking money. He's a wealthy, well-to-do fucking black man in this country. And right now, while he's living in the lap of luxury and has a seat of power in some sort of way and control over other people's lives, he does not have the right or the privilege to talk about fucking, his experiences and then in the past, and then say, well, that's the only, that's all you need to know to believe that, I'm on the right side. No, you have to prove it with your actions. You don't get, it's just like politicians. You don't get to talk the talk and then fuck everybody over. Right now, again, it's the one situation, but there haven't been any situations yet where, he's had that position of power and made the right choice, so he's 0 for 1. So until that record changes, that's where I stand with this fucking guy. Anyway, I know I said I wasn't going to say a whole lot about it, but look, it's ridiculous. Anyway, there are definitely some more important things, though, to talk about in addition to that. But look, it's definitely good that they talk about it and stuff. Obviously, again, and to be fair to them, they didn't have practice yesterday, so they couldn't cancel practice. So it's not their fault or Brian Flores' fault or anybody's fault that they didn't cancel practice on a day that they didn't already have it. So at least that's what I can tell, is they didn't have practice yesterday, but they're having it today and tomorrow. Anyway, but there is some other pretty important news, though, that is concerning. Player personnel-wise. So Cameron Wolfe reported that Devontae Parker wasn't out there for a second consecutive practice today. He was walking in street clothes with no apparent notable issue. So there is no apparent notable issue with Devontae Parker, but he's in street clothes. He's not even in like a red jersey or anything. He's like all the way downgraded to street clothes. But he's around the facility, so it's not like he's off dealing with some personal family issue or anything like that. He's around, he's available, but there's something not right there. So, I suppose there is some mundane reason that could exist for it, but we have to see. We have to find out why. I hope reporters ask and find out why Devontae Parker has been in street clothes for the past 2 practices, because that is concerning, right? Because everybody wanted to talk about Devontae Parker's breakout year last year, and it's true, he had one, but the reason for it was not his ability, as I've been saying the entire time. It's because of his availability and the fact that he was actually on the field. Also, because of the fact that the dynamics of the season and our team last year dictated that we had to throw the ball a lot, and he was like one of 2 people on the field that would reliably catch the ball because his skills are there, right? So because of those different factors, he had a breakout season, but it was primarily because of his availability, or certainly in large part. And that he was able to be there for the entire season last year because he finally got his workout habits, sleep habits, eating habits, all of that stuff together, and finally was able to put together a full season healthy, and that was due to Adam Gase's team. People can deny that all they want, but even Devontae Parker had said during Gase's time that his eating habits changed, his sleeping habits changed, his practice habits changed. All of those things changed. and then towards the end, you know, in the last year, or, you know, they started it Gase's second year, he started to really kind of see some of those changes, but it didn't, you know, the majority of that came in the last season, right? His last year with Gase, and it was Gase's staff and the players that he brought in, like Danny Amendola and Frank Gore, and kept Cameron Wake around, these veterans that were able to teach him these things, right? That got him there. But, you know, and people are, you know, super high on him right now and super high on the Dolphins in part because of him. But if he doesn't have, you know, if he reverts back to the old Devontae Parker and isn't available and whatever, then that's a major issue. Anyway, Xavier Howard suited for practice but did not participate in team drills. Most of work off to the side with trainers. That's not terribly concerning. I mean, well, first of all, the fact that he went onto the PUP list to begin with is concerning. But them easing him back in and being slow with him on his return is not concerning. That's actually smart. So, good there. And it is good news overall that he's back on the field. And I definitely would rather them be easier with him than rush him back, particularly because he's got knee issues. Anyway, and then Patrick Laird returned with a red jersey. So apparently he's got some sort of issue. And look, I mean, there have already been tons of fucking injuries happening throughout the league. And it's for, you know, it's for obvious reasons. They're not ready for this, and they're not going to be ready for it. They're going to hit the season, and if there are games played, they're going to be probably at least the normal amount, but probably a heightened amount of injuries because, look, they're just not, you know, in the kind of shape that they need to be in overall. All right, anyway, with that, guys, no, I'm sorry. There is one more thing that I do want to talk about, I'm sorry, before I get out, because I mentioned it earlier, and it is important. So there is this report here on Bleacher Report that there are players prepared to sit out games. So report, a few prominent black NFL players want to sit out a game in protest. So it looks like that they just, I don't know, maybe they've already decided. Well, let's go ahead and find out. Following recent player protests in various sports leagues, including the NBA, WNBA, MLS, MLB, and NHL, multiple NFL players are reportedly considering sitting out a game when the regular season begins. Per NFL.com's Jim Trotter, a few prominent black players told him that they want to sit out a game to make their feelings felt and force change in action. Trotter described the players who are considering sitting out as tired, frustrated, and emotional. New York Giants players Saquon Barkley and Sterling Shepard told reporters Thursday there is a possibility they could sit out a game during the season in protest of social justice. I can't really just go and speak on behalf of the whole league, but for us, that is something that we're going to talk about within our social justice groups within our team. Barkley said, what's talked about in players' meetings stays in players' meetings. Shepard said it's something that we're going to talk about as a team before he makes an official comment about the situation. The Giants are scheduled to open the 2020 season September 14th against the Pittsburgh Steelers at MetLife Stadium. Troy Vincent, NFL Executive Vice President of Football Operations, appeared Thursday on ESPN Radio's Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin show to say the NFL is not living in reality if it wasn't expecting its players to stage some sort of strike like the NBA and WNBA players did. The Detroit Lions canceled Tuesday's practice to speak out against the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. 9 other teams canceled their practice, I was mistaken when I said 8, Thursday in protest of Blake's shooting. The 2020 NFL regular season is scheduled to begin September 10th as the Kansas City Chiefs host the Houston Texans at Arrowhead Stadium. So just really quick, I think that's awesome. I think that's great. And I think lots of players need to do that and really make a statement. However, I'm going to say that I personally don't believe that if, because look, the NBA, I saw a report that the NBA is getting ready to start or resume playoffs on Saturday. Now, the Lakers and Clippers have already canceled their entire season. So that is going to affect the playoffs one way or another for the NBA. However, there was a report that's saying they are about to start again tomorrow. Okay, so the striking, which they did, it was a strike, it wasn't a boycott. The striking, though, for those other sports apparently is going to come to a close. If players in the NFL do one game, sit out one game, okay, they'll get replaced for that game and things will go on. There's been a general strike being planned in the country for September 1st, the first day of September, and then from what I've seen, the idea is the first of the month, every month after that, until people get what they want. Here's the problem, though, guys. The other side doesn't care, okay? It's not going to do anything. It's not going to change anything because it's going to be so limited and so short term. They're just going to be like, oh, okay, you guys want to not work for a day? You guys want to not play one game? Okay, whatever. Like, it's not going to do anything, right? So, because why? Unfortunately, the only thing that, you know, fascism responds to is strength, power, and force. And it's not enough power. It's not enough force. It doesn't hit them anywhere near hard enough. And unfortunately, also, when it comes to racists, well, the point of racism is they just don't like, they fundamentally don't like people of different races of themselves. And unfortunately, as we've seen, that is a higher priority to them than almost anything else, right? So they don't give a shit about what any of these players have to say. They don't care. They just don't care. So, you know, when it comes to I mean, look, you know, there was the protest, there was the shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin, right, in Kenosha. There were the protests, then right-wingers shot people. Well, the one person, the one psycho kid, the 17-year-old, shot people, killed people, and then now they've sent federal agents in. Okay, well, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to keep escalating, and it's going to keep going and going and going. So, anyway, I'm glad that they're doing it, but they are going to need to do more. We're all going to need to do more. The only answer is we have to topple the entire system. It has to be destroyed, and it has to be burnt to the fucking ground so we can build a brand new one. Yeah, anyway, with that, I'm going to go ahead and bounce and get up out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.